The phone was sticky. I'd been wrestling with a jar of raw honey that had decided to explode all over the worn Formica counter, and I hadn't washed my hands yet. The vibrating plastic felt gritty against my palm. Unknown number, Boston area code. I almost let it ring out. It was 4:45 on a Tuesday in November. The light outside my kitchen window in South End was the color of dirty motor oil. Heavy rain hit the glass in flat, desperate sheets. I was wearing a ripped band t-shirt that smelled faintly of coffee and bleach, and sweatpants with a hole in the knee. My life was small and quiet and carefully constructed. I liked it that way. I didn't want the outside world calling. I swiped the green button mostly out of habit, jamming the phone between my shoulder and my ear while I grabbed a damp sponge. "Hello?" My voice was flat, guarded. A sound came back that wasn't a word. It was a ragged intake of breath, followed by a wet, hiccuping choke. It sounded like someone was trying to talk while drowning. I paused the scrubbing. The sponge dripped brown water onto the floorboards. "Hello?" I tried again, sharper this time. "You have the wrong number. Megan?" The voice was a whisper, high and thin, dragged out like brittle thread. It was unfamiliar, young, too polished, even when cracking. It had that specific North Shore quality, expensive and anxious. "Who is this?" I asked. My stomach tightened. That immediate cold dread. It was the physical response I'd learned 5 years ago, the Pavlovian jerk when something from the old life threatened to bleed into the new one. More choking. Then, incredibly, a name. "It's Sarah, David's wife." The sponge dropped entirely. It hit the floor with a pathetic splat. The air went cold. It didn't matter that the heat was blasting in my small apartment, rattling the old pipes. The cold came from inside my chest. It was the same invasive chill you felt when the dentist jammed ice against a bad nerve. David's wife. I hadn't heard that name, or thought about that man, in any specific detail, in years. I had systematically pruned him out of my existence like a toxic vine. He was the ghost I had to walk around. The reason half my old friends still crossed the street when they saw me. The reason my parents still sometimes asked, quiet and tentative, "Are you feeling stable?" The woman on the phone, the one who replaced me, the one who walked into the life I'd helped him build and then watched him torch. She was calling me. "Sarah?" I repeated, the name tasting like rust. "I think you dialed wrong." "No, please. Wait, please don't hang up." Her voice broke fully this time, dissolving into a deep, echoing sob that made my teeth hurt. I don't know who else to call. I need to know what you did." My jaw locked. The cold in my chest spread, tightening into a knot the size of a fist right beneath my sternum. "I didn't do anything," I said, my voice dangerously low. "I haven't spoken to David in 5 years. You shouldn't be calling me." "No, not about the divorce. Not about you leaving," she stammered, scrambling for words. "I mean, when he said you were—" She trailed off, unable to voice the word, but I heard it loud and clear, the invisible scarlet letter stitched onto my reputation for the last half-decade. Crazy. Unstable. Hysterical. When he said I was insane, I finished it for her, letting the blunt force of the word hang in the silence. It felt good to say it out loud, to pull the poison into the light. "Is that what you mean, Sarah?" A fresh wave of crying. It was less hysterical now, more defeated. "Yes, everything. The paranoia, the drinking, the episodes. He said he had to leave because you were destroying his life. He said you were obsessed with him. He said you ruined his career prospects in finance because you couldn't control your emotions." I closed my eyes. It had been 5 years, but the memory was still fresh enough to make my palms sweat. The sheer, systematic destruction he had orchestrated. The lies he whispered so calmly to our mutual friends, to his colleagues, to my own family. He didn't yell. He just delivered calculated, concerned reports of my deterioration. He was always the stable one, the reasonable man trying to save the woman who was drowning herself in madness. "Why are you calling me, Sarah?" I asked again. My breath was shallow. I hadn't moved from the kitchen counter. My focus narrowed to the sound of the rain outside and the sickening, wet noise coming through the cheap phone speaker. "Because—" She took a massive, shuddering breath. "Because he's doing it to me." The 3 words hit me harder than a punch. They bypassed logic and settled directly into the deepest, oldest scar tissue I had. "What?" I whispered. "He is. Everything he said about you, Megan, is what he's saying about me now." She started talking fast, desperately, tumbling the details out before I could cut her off. She didn't sound like the polished, put-together woman I'd seen in the wedding photos that circulated briefly on Facebook before I blocked everyone. She sounded raw, unhinged, terrified. "He took my car keys this morning. He said I wasn't safe to drive because I hadn't slept in 3 days. But I haven't slept because he keeps waking me up at 3 a.m. to argue about money I didn't spend. And then he tells everyone at the yacht club that I'm becoming fragile." The yacht club. God, that was exactly his scene. The controlled environment where reputation was everything and emotion was a fatal flaw. He said I have an unhealthy fixation on my phone, but he hides my phone charger so I can't call my sister. He says I'm obsessed with him cheating, but he leaves his browser open on sites I know he shouldn't be on. And then when I ask, he says I'm fabricating evidence. My spine went rigid. I leaned my forehead against the cold edge of the upper cabinet. The pain felt good, a physical anchor against the tidal wave of memory. He said I was drinking too much because I finished a bottle of wine in 2 days, but he was pouring out my prescription medication into the sink and telling me I was reliant on pills. He told my boss at the gallery that my mood swings were affecting my curatorial judgment. I lost that job. I lost everything. I had spent 5 years in therapy, 5 years reconstructing my reality, peeling back the layers of doubt he had coated me in. Had I been too much? Was I actually unstable? For years I believed I was. I believed the man who loved me, who promised me a future when he looked at me with sorrowful eyes and said, "You need help, Meg. I'm just worried you'll hurt yourself." And now, here was his new wife, calling me, the certified public basket case, to confirm her own sanity. "Tell me," Sarah pleaded, her voice cracking. "Please, Megan, tell me he did that to you. The gaslighting, the sudden calm dismissal when you're crying, the way he makes you feel like the walls are warping." "Yes," I breathed. It was barely a sound. "The friends. He tells everyone I'm hysterical. He tells them I throw things. He tells them I need professional intervention, and he's the only one strong enough to handle me." I felt the sudden, shocking surge of adrenaline. It wasn't fear. It was recognition. It was the absolute damning proof I never had. It wasn't me. It was him. He was a collector of broken women. No, worse. He was an architect of broken women. He found stable ground and dug a hole until the woman standing there fell in, and then he stood on the edge, looking down, concerned. "The way he looks at you when you're arguing," Sarah continued, relentless in her pain. "That look. Like you're a creature, not a person. Like you're performing a ridiculous scene just for his amusement." I closed my eyes and saw David's face. Handsome, clean-shaven, impeccably dressed in a tailored shirt. And the expression, a small, almost undetectable curl of the lip, pity mixed with contempt. The look of a scientist observing a failed experiment. "He called my parents last night," I managed, the words scraping my throat. 5 years ago. He told them I was having paranoid delusions and that I'd threatened to hurt myself. He said he was going to commit me for my own safety. Sarah made a small noise, a kind of wounded animal sound. He said he was going to have me admitted for a 72-hour observation. He said I was drinking too much. I had 2 glasses of wine, Megan. 2. He told my sister that I was obsessed with him cheating. I recounted, the memories flooding back, sharp and painful. He said I was constantly checking his email and his phone, even though I hadn't touched his devices in months. He made her believe I was ruining my own career because I was too consumed by jealousy. She stopped talking to me for a year because she believed I was spiraling. I walked away from the counter, pulling the phone tight to my ear, and moved to the window. The rain had intensified to a roar. The streetlights made the wet asphalt shine black and slick. "He uses the word concerned constantly," Sarah whispered. "It's always, 'I'm just so concerned about your state of mind, Sarah. I'm concerned about your spending habits.' He weaponizes care. He uses it to isolate you." "Yes," I agreed, my voice steadier now. The anger was rising, clean and hot, replacing the fear. "He doesn't fight you. He monitors you. He doesn't yell about the argument. He calls your mother to express deep concern over your volatility during the argument. We fell into a synchronized silence, two women standing 5 years apart, connected by the same pattern of psychological abuse, built by the same man. I could picture Sarah. She was probably young, maybe mid-30s, blonde, thin, perfectly accessorized, the kind of woman David needed to present to the world, a trophy that confirmed his own success and stability. And he was systematically dismantling her, piece by piece, just like he did to me. "He's taking my credit cards away next week," Sarah said, the panic ratcheting up again. "He said I'm being irresponsible, even though I handle all the bills. He's cutting me off from the money, Megan, just like he did to you. He controlled the narrative, and then he controlled the resources." I remembered the sheer panic of having my bank account suddenly frozen, the funds moved to an emergency account only he could access, all under the guise of protecting our financial future from my impulsivity. I was stranded, isolated, and publicly discredited. I had to beg for bus fare. "Where are you now?" I demanded. "In the guest bedroom closet. He's downstairs. He thinks I'm packing some things. He told me to take a breather because I was overstimulated." The closet. The universal sanctuary for the woman whose home has become a prison. "I called you because I needed to know I'm not inventing this," Sarah insisted, her voice tight with desperation. "I needed to know that the woman he said was crazy was actually just the first one he tried to break. I need to know the playbook, Megan, because I can't leave. I have nowhere to go. My friends, my family, they all think he's a saint, and I'm the one becoming unstable." I leaned my head against the glass. The condensation felt cold and sharp. I had gone through this fire. I knew the escape routes. I knew the hiding spots. I knew exactly how to dismantle the narrative he had built. "He's using his concern to isolate you," I stated, my voice firm. I was speaking to myself 5 years ago as much as I was speaking to her. "He needs you to be alone when you break. He needs witnesses to see you break, but never to see him push you." I took a deep breath, collecting the ragged edges of my own trauma and shaping them into a weapon. "You are not crazy, Sarah. You are being systematically destroyed, and you called the right person." A long silence on the line, just the sound of heavy breathing and the faint muffled thud of what I assumed was music or the TV from downstairs. David, calmly relaxing while his wife hid in the dark. "What do I do?" she asked, the question tiny, fragile, and absolutely dependent. "First," I said, looking out at the cold, rainy street, "we make a list." I walked over to my desk, grabbed a pen, and pulled out a clean sheet of paper. My hand was shaking, but the rest of me felt strangely calm, energized by a righteous fury I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. David had tried to erase me. He had failed, and now, his replacement was seeking my counsel. "You need to gather proof," I instructed, my voice slipping into the professional, organized tone I used at my new, smaller, safer job. "Every text message where he contradicts himself, every email where he reports your instability to a third party, every time he denies you access to a bank account, we are building the case that you are sane, and he is a calculated liar." Sarah let out a small, relieved sound. I started writing things down, but he found the journal. He called it obsessive documentation, and threw it in the fireplace. "Of course he did," I muttered. "He knows the danger of the written word. Okay, we don't write it down at home. We use cloud storage. We use secret email drafts. We work on getting you access to your money right now. Does he have a routine tonight? When does he go to sleep?" "He's watching the game. He'll be downstairs until midnight." "Good," I said. "We have time." "Do you have a laptop or a phone he doesn't check?" "An old burner phone I bought for a work trip months ago. I hid it in a shoebox." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Go get it. Charge it. We're going to be on this line for a while, Sarah. I need you to listen to everything I say, and I need you to trust me completely, because I know exactly what he's doing, and I know exactly how to beat him." I felt the familiar hot rush of the adrenaline of battle, but this time, it wasn't fear that powered it. It was solidarity. It was the absolute, unyielding proof that I was not and had never been the monster he painted me to be. The monster was him. And now, his past was actively collaborating with his present to ensure his future was ruined. I settled into the chair, the rain still hammering outside, the honey forgotten on the counter. My hand didn't shake anymore. "Okay, Sarah," I started, pushing aside the fear and the exhaustion. "Let's talk about the money. Where did he hide the access codes for the joint account?" Sarah's voice was wet, dragging across the line like sandpaper. I don't know. He keeps everything digital, he told me. He said the only physical money he touches is cash for groceries because I'm so bad at tracking bills. The rain outside my window sounded like gravel thrown against the glass now. It was a cold, hard sound, matching the knot that had tightened in my stomach when she first called. I settled deeper into the stiff, uncomfortable dining chair. My apartment was small. The walls painted a cheap, institutional beige. It felt like a bunker. The honey jar was still on the counter, catching the weak gray light. I hadn't moved it. I hadn't moved much at all. "He lied," I said, my voice flat. I was no longer talking to Sarah. I was talking to the ghost of my own stupid, trusting past self. Ethan never trusts digital. He thinks people can trace it. He uses digital access as the distraction. He wants you looking for a password on a thumb drive while the real ledger is sitting right under your nose. I closed my eyes. The exhaustion hit me again. A physical wave, pressing down on my chest. 5 years. 5 years of rebuilding my reputation. Brick by agonizing brick, only for the man who tried to ruin me to prove, finally, that he was the wrecking ball. "Think about the house, Sarah," I pressed. "What did he keep hidden? Not valuable things, not jewelry, something ugly. Something he insisted had to stay in one place, something he claimed was sentimental, but was actually worthless." She took a shaky breath. I heard her fumbling with something on her end. A glass, maybe. She sounded like she was hiding in a closet. The background was muffled. "The study," she whispered. "He has this old, dark wood desk. It was his grandfather's, he said. It's too heavy to move. He keeps this horrible ceramic duck on it. It's chipped. It's been there since we moved in. If I try to dust it, he gets furious." A cold spike of recognition went straight through me. I didn't need to ask. I already knew. "The duck," I confirmed, the word tasting like ash. "He had a porcelain figurine of a clown when we were together. Said his mother gave it to him. Same thing. Couldn't touch it. It was his little anchor." I rubbed my temple. The headache was monumental, an empire of throbbing pain behind my left eye. I hadn't eaten since lunch, and that was hours ago. The clock on my stove read 6:47 p.m. The conversation felt like it had been going on for 2 years. Not 2 hours. "The base of the duck," I instructed. Slowly, meticulously. "It's not just sitting flat. Run your hand around the bottom edge. Does it feel smooth? Or is there a tiny seam?" He uses cheap hobby glue to seal the access point, then paints over it quickly. "Look for a hairline crack in the wood of the desk right under it." He pushes down on the spot to release the seal. Sarah went silent. The only sound was the static of the phone line and the relentless drumming of the rain. The smell of old, damp carpet and dust, the universal scent of my apartment, seemed amplified by the silence. My fingers gripping the phone were starting to cramp. I had been sitting in the same rigid position for too long. My back screamed protest. Finally, a gasp. Sharp and high-pitched. "Megan, oh my God, there's a tiny crack. It's almost invisible." I pressed it. Her voice dropped to a frantic whisper. The whole bottom of the desk drawer opened up. "It's a false bottom." Oh, Jesus. I didn't feel triumph. I felt a heavy, sickening validation. It wasn't about being right. It was about knowing, deep in my bones, that the man who had systematically dismantled my sanity, my career, and my friendships hadn't changed a single thing about his routine. He was predictable, predictably evil. "What do you see?" I asked. "A thick envelope, manila, and a small silver key," Sarah reported, the fear giving way to a nascent, terrifying rage. The sound of her shifting from victim to avenger was familiar. It sounded like the moment I realized I wasn't crazy. I was just being systematically managed. "The envelope is the ledger," I said. "It details the transfers. That key is for a safety deposit box. He never tells the current wife about the box. It's the emergency fund, which is code for my secret retirement fund when I ditch the current wife. We spent the next 40 minutes dissecting the ledger. Sarah read off figures, dates, and account names. It was all there. The money he told her was lost in a bad investment, the money he said he had to use to pay down her fictional debt, the money he convinced her she had overspent. The figures matched the ones I had seen 5 years ago, only larger. The cycle was relentless. He told me I needed to go back to therapy, Sarah murmured, her voice hollow. He said I was paranoid, that I was imagining the missing funds. He told my sister that I had started drinking again, even though I haven't touched alcohol in 10 years. I felt a sharp, cold sting behind my eyes. I didn't cry. I was too tired for tears. He told my former boss I was unstable and had a substance problem, I replied, staring at the blurred reflection of my face in the dark window pane. My reflection looked drawn, the shadows under my eyes deep purple. He told my parents I was having an affair and using the money to pay for a secret second life. He told everyone. The shared burden of that lie, that specific, cruel brand of character assassination, created a bizarre, immediate intimacy. We were two strangers bound by the same psychological shrapnel. How did you survive it? She asked, the question heavy with desperation. I sighed, pulling my stiff legs up and resting my chin on my knees. My jeans were digging into my stomach. I was still wearing the clothes I'd put on 12 hours earlier, a threadbare gray sweater and faded denim. I smelled faintly of old coffee and stress sweat. I didn't survive it gracefully, I admitted. I survived it by becoming the monster he said I was. I stopped caring what people thought. I went scorched earth. I took his lies and used them as fuel. I stopped apologizing for my anger. I stopped trying to prove I was sane to the people who were already convinced I wasn't. I looked at the clock again. It was 8:15 p.m. The sky was black now. You have the ledger, I stated, shifting the focus back to the immediate, necessary thing. That's everything. That is the truth written down in his own hand. Now, Sarah, you need to do exactly what I tell you, and you need to do it fast. He will smell this coming. I leaned forward, elbows resting on my knees, my voice dropping to a harsh, focused intensity. First, the key. You need to call a locksmith right now. Tell them you lost your own key to a safe deposit box, and you need it opened. Discreetly. Don't use the key he provided. It might be rigged, or he might have a note inside that says something crazy to discredit you if you use it. You need the bank to confirm what is inside without him knowing you accessed it. Sarah was scribbling. I could hear the faint scratch of a cheap pen against paper. Second, the lawyer. You need the nastiest, meanest divorce lawyer in town. Someone who eats men like David for breakfast. Do not, under any circumstances, call the lawyer who handled your prenup, or the one he recommended. Find someone ruthless. I can give you the name of the woman who saved my life, if you're in the tri-state area. I am, Sarah breathed. Please, give me the name. I gave her the number for Diane Kincaid, a woman who charged astronomical rates but who understood the mechanics of domestic terrorism. Diane didn't care if you cried. She only cared if you had proof. Third, you are going to leave the house tonight, I commanded. Pack one bag. Your most important documents. Your passport, your IDs, your phone charger. Leave your wedding ring. Leave a note saying you went to visit your sister. Do not mention the accounts. Do not mention the duck. If he comes back and sees the desk drawer ajar, he will flip the script and say, "You tried to steal from him." I can't just leave, she started, her voice faltering. You can. You have to. I cut her off. My voice was firm, cold. This wasn't a suggestion. This was the only way out. You are not safe there. The moment he realizes you know, the mask drops. He will escalate. He will try to make you believe you were dreaming this whole conversation. He will use your vulnerabilities against you. He knows you better than anyone. I stood up, needing to move, pacing the narrow space between the dining table and the counter. My body ached with a deep systemic fatigue, but the adrenaline was sharp, forcing me to remain alert. The next 24 hours are the most important. You secure the evidence, you meet the lawyer, and you disappear until the restraining order is filed. Do not answer his calls. Do not text him back. You are gone. You are a ghost. Sarah was silent for a long moment. I heard her taking ragged, deep breaths. The transformation was complete. The victim was gone. What remained was a woman facing a necessary, brutal fight. "I'm scared," she finally admitted, but the fear was laced with purpose now. "Good," I responded. "Use it. Let the fear keep you moving. Let the anger keep you focused. You are not paranoid, Sarah. You are informed. You are not crazy. You are facing a man who has made a career out of convincing women that they are." We talked for another half hour. I went over the specifics of police reports, the necessity of documenting every single text, every weird comment, every time he isolated her from a friend. I told her about the court dates, the humiliating depositions, the way he would cry on the stand to convince the judge he was the victim of an unstable, vindictive woman. I prepared her for the psychological war. I told her what she needed to hear, that she would hate the next year, but she would survive it. I checked my phone again. It was 9:02 p.m. The call had lasted 3 hours and 12 minutes. "You have everything you need," I concluded. "You need to move now. Pack the bag. Call the locksmith. Get the hell out of that house." "Megan," she said, her voice catching. "Thank you. I don't know what to say. You saved me." "Don't thank me," I said, leaning my forehead against the cool surface of the window. "Just take him down. Take him all the way down." There was a slight pause, then a definitive click as she hung up the phone. I stood there in the dark apartment, the silence rushing in to fill the void left by her voice and the static. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, a soft, persistent whisper against the window pane. I felt a sudden, profound emptiness, a release of pressure I hadn't realized I was holding. The weight of proving my sanity had been lifted, not by my own actions, but by the undeniable physical proof now sitting in a manila envelope miles away. I walked back to the kitchen, finally picking up the forgotten jar of honey. I unscrewed the lid, stuck my finger in, and tasted the sweetness. It tasted like nothing. I walked into the bathroom, flipped on the harsh fluorescent light, and stared at my face. I looked drained, ancient. The tired, anxious eyes of the woman who had been called crazy for 5 years stared back at me. I picked up the heavy silver-backed brush David had given me years ago, the one I kept in the back of the drawer. It was solid, ostentatious, a reminder of a life I thought was real. I raised the brush over the porcelain sink. I brought it down hard, once, twice, 3 times, until the mirror cracked and spiderwebbed, and the sound of breaking glass was the only truth left in the room. Then I went to bed. I didn't set an alarm. I figured the next morning would come when it was ready.